Hello everybody, and today we are going to be checking out a scenario where Norway forms an empire. Now, this is obviously not real world Norway, this is WICSO Norway. And WICSO Norway is a country that has been here for a very long time. They have a very enriched culture, but more importantly, they are the 9th strongest country in the world. And I see some potential for them to grow an empire. If you guys do enjoy today's scenario, then please consider liking and subscribing. As of recording this, we have just hit 1,000 subscribers. I'm very thankful. And yeah, actually, there's a lot more things I can do as a creator with 1,000 subscribers. So I want to thank you guys a lot for that. And the 1,000 subscriber special will be coming out soon. But yeah, on that note, let's get straight into today's scenario. So first of all, we are going to have to disregard this little thing called the Assembly of Nations. They are not going to exist because they would obviously limit the ways that Norway could expand. But we are also going to see Norway is going to have to change from Scandinavian socialism, and they will probably have to change into a dictatorship. So with this change in government, they are going to be in the perfect environment where there is a sense that every country is on their own, and they have an aspiration for war. So now we can get straight into the scenario. So first, yeah, Denmark, you're going to be absolutely demolished. Norway is going to march their troops over here into the west of Copenhagen, and eventually they capture this island as well. And after that, they're going to navally bombard the Danish coast, capturing the northeastern area and the eastern area. This eastern area is going to be a lot better habilitated as it is a lot closer to the main forces, but this naval front line is going to be up here in the north. It is going to be a lot trickier because it is right by the capital, but Norway sees relative ease in the south, invading most of it, and they're going to go up here to the north, and they're going to capture the capital, officially capitulating Denmark. And in this treaty, we can see that Denmark has been fully annexed away from their sovereignty, and they are completely retaken by Norway. Now Norway has began their empire, but of course now they are a little bit stuck, but there is somewhere they can go. They can either go to Danzig, Estonia, or Iceland. And I think Iceland would be a lot better suited. It is more kind of localized over here, and if you go to Danzig, that's gonna like heighten tensions with Poland and all the strong countries. So Norwegian boats are gonna go here to the eastern coast of Iceland, and they are going to navally bombard the east until they can make a landing. And yeah, Iceland is relatively weak, so they're actually just gonna go ahead and fold over pretty quickly. And yeah, in this peace treaty, we're gonna see full annexation being a policy of the Norwegians as they take the entire island. But now, like I said, Norway will not be able to expand greatly around their borders. Of course, Danzig and Estonia would be, threatening Poland. But you know what? Norway doesn't care. They're going to be making a landing over here in Danzig and officially declaring war. And yeah, Danzig is pretty weak, and they were just revived, I think 10 episodes ago. And yeah, goodbye Danzig. So we can now get rid of their capital, and Norway is starting to reach a empire level. Of course, before this, it was just kind of solitary, kind of just expansion. But now it has gone to a point where they have annexed a lot of territory. But now we are going to go over here to Finland. Now, of course, Finland is a very stable nation, one of the most stable in the world. But we are going to have to twist some of the laws over here of like reality, so Norway can be incentivized to form their empire. So we are going to see pro-Russian settlers over here in the east of Finland rising up with arms, trying to join the state of Russia. And this is seen a lot in the south by the Russian border, of course. But some pockets also aim to rise up here in the center. And it's even as far to be seen over here on the Kola Peninsula, where we see 2 pockets over here. And this is going to give Norway the perfect justification to go into Finland, because of course they can just say that they want to assist the Russian rebels. And yeah, Norway is really assisting. It's to the point now where it just kind of seems like they're invading Finland, which they are. And Finland's going to have some success with these rebels. They officially retake the entire Kola Peninsula, but that just incentivizes them to make their solidaro areas here in the east, and that links up a lot of their power. And Finland is in a precarious situation. You have a massive superpower coming down on you, and then you have a whole bunch of rebels, which are in support of a very strong country. And in that case, you should probably surrender so their terms can be incited, but also you surrender so they don't have the full, justification to actually incite those terms. But Finland is not doing that. Very, very nationalistic. Eventually, the people over here in Kola are still going to rise up in support of Russia, but then eventually they're just going to go ahead and switch over to Norwegian supporting, and this causes for the Norwegians to take over the entire Kola Peninsula, and eventually with the capturing of the capital, the Eastern Rebellion is going to be able to sweep throughout here, capturing 2 major cities. And eventually, the Finnish government is going to surrender over to Norway, and we can take a look at this peace treaty. Alright, and this is what we see our peace treaty looking like. Norway basically took the entire north of their country, while Russia, without really having any military involvement here, they're going to take the entire east of Finland, as they had a couple episodes ago. And I'm sure Poland and Crimea would react to this, But of course they do not have a say because this is Norway's video and they have expanded. Now Finland is left to a very bad spot over here, and they're kind of left to their own devices. And yeah, they're not really going to survive very long. Eventually the pro-Russians are just going to find themselves over here in Finland as well. And eventually when they, take over the entirety of the country, nothing's going to change, but it's definitely going to be a state that is highly tilted towards Russian type government. But getting back to Norway, we are going to see them invading yet another country, and they're going to be going after Estonia. Estonia has been in and out of history in the past couple episodes, of course. They were released from Russia, but then they were taken back by Russia, and then Russia collapsed, and it's just like a whole thing. But now they're going to be falling under Norway, and Norwegian troops have been stationed here a lot of times in both World War IV and III. And now they're back, taking over their entirety of the Gulf of Riga, and surprisingly, Russia does not get involved, so Norway will be able to take this entire thing. And full annexation will be a thing here. So we can go ahead and erase that capital, but it is now time that Poland and these other surrounding countries are starting to get a little bit suspicious. Because Finland was a good mid-tier power, but then Russia just, warranted rebels to be here. And now look at Finland. They're pathetic. So what's saying that can't happen to you, Poland? Nothing. Nothing is saying it can't happen. So Poland's going to do the smart thing. Poland is going to sell over a good portion of their provinces, primarily the coastal ones. And this is going to allow for the naval activity of the Norwegians to go up a lot. And in return for getting this territory, Norway is going to pay a lot of money. And now with all of this territory being sold over to Norway, we are going to see that Norway and Poland are on a lot better terms. But at this point, Germany is not going to back down, as they're actually going to try and single-handedly take down the Norwegian Empire. They're going to start by over here the invasion of Danzig, capturing a major city, and also moving up into the Danish peninsula. They are remarked well for this, but it is not going to last long as they get to the gates of the final major city in Danzig. But that is not before Norwegian advancements are going to be made in the Danish peninsula. And yeah, this cannot end well for Germany. Because remember, Norway did buff up their military, and that just kind of refers to them being able to whoop Germany's ass. Eventually, a naval landing is going to be able to recuperate all of the forces over here, creating a full front line. And they recapture the final major city of Danzig, but there are still some German divisions that are going to be here. But they're going to pale in comparison to the Norwegian forces coming straight for their capital. Eventually, a massive encirclement is made over here, capturing a lot of important divisions, which are going to eventually be taken by Norway. Most of them as POWs, but some of them are even executed. Instead of going towards the capital, Norway is going to go over here down south, and this is going to encourage rebels to appear over here in the South German areas. And eventually those rebels are going to show their heads, and they are going to encompass the southern areas here in Germany. They call themselves peaceful protesters, but in reality they are just funded by the Norwegians. And yeah, that's working really well for Norway, as they are now just going straight here into Germany, capturing their capital. And the rest of it is going to be partitioned between the Norwegian forces and the rebels. And that looks like this. So now we can take a look at a peace treaty, basically dividing up Germany. Alright, and these are the lines that are going to devise our peace treaty. And you might notice something, that the capital region of Germany has been annexed into Norway, so they're going to have to move their capital, and they're going to move it over here. But now these lines are going to outline the fall of Germany. Norway is going to take these northern sections, officially taking basically the entirety of the Baltic Sea coast. And a new country is going to be born down here, basically like the Russian puppet state that existed. And speaking of capitals, we are going to see that the southern German capital is going to be down here by the Adriatic Sea coast. And Germany has been crippled severely. And this is a pretty good Norwegian empire. They have expanded, but now they're going to go after Finland. Of course, we did see that Finland changed their government provisionally to a Russian-aligned government, but Russia definitely is not too wary of this. Of course, they don't want to go to war after they were just pummeled, and that's a little bit of an understate to say pummeled, because they were also pummeled by the Norwegians, so they do not come to the aid of the Finnish, in which case they are going to be fully annexed into Norway. But now there's not really many places that Norway can go. Of course, they've expanded greatly around the weaker countries, but all the stronger countries are showing them a massive issue. You can't go to war with Poland because you just acquired these territories from them, and it would be kind of mean. You just got out of a gruesome war with Germany. Can't really go after the Dutch Republic. Ireland is one of the strongest countries. And if you invoke war with the Unitarians, then that's also going to bring in basically all of the Unitarian states and also incite a coalition. So Norway is going to go isolationist for probably 10 to 20 years. But once they are done with this isolationist state, the policies and the mandates are going to roll out of the Norwegian capital, basically ensuring their, political and military survival and its strength. And this is going to be used to go international. They are no longer limited over here to the northern areas of Europe, as their boats are going to land over here in Puerto Rico. They capture all the Antilles Islands, and this is definitely the furthest naval invasion that Norway has done so far. Before that, it was like from them to Iceland, but that was kind of boring, so now they're in the Caribbean. And of course, yeah, the Caribbean, it's pretty nice. Hispaniola, they have no issue capturing that, but eventually the, Caribbean countries are going to be able to fight back. But with Norway seeing increased success in the Bahamas, we are going to see the Caribbean country is forced to subside over to Norway. And now we can take a look at a peace treaty that is going to give a lot of islands over to Norway. Alright, and in this peace treaty, we see that Norway has been given all of their occupied territories. And now the Caribbeans, or I guess more appropriately named the Cubans, are just going to be left over here to Cuba and Jamaica. And America, Mexico, and Brazil are going to be absolutely terrified because a rich, growing empire has just rolled out a mandate that is going to establish their dominance over here in the Caribbean. Because, America and Brazil, they were fighting over the Caribbean like 20 episodes ago or something like that. But now it has just been taken by the Norwegians, who are presenting themselves as an unwary power. But Russia is going to do a little bit of an oopsie. A little military incident is going to cause them moving their infantry into Poland. And Poland just sees this as an act of war. And eventually they're going to declare war, and Norway is going to declare war on Russia. Now this was kind of perfect for Norway. Of course, they were looking for a justification to pounce on Russia. And now they finally have that, as their ally has been put in danger. Of course, this ally isn't too susceptible to Russian invasion, as the Russians have been reduced to a very weak state. But the international community is not going to take this well, as Russia has been very frowned upon in the past couple of episodes. Of course, with that, warmonger. And a lot of Ukrainian divisions and Eastern Russian divisions and the Caucasian divisions, they're going to be going over here to help out Poland, so this is why they see so much premonitionary success. Eventually, Norway is going to be able to pierce through the front line as well. They're going to capture a lot of territory here in Finland. And this is because remember those Russian rebels inside of Finland? Well, if you didn't guess already, those were funded by Russia. And Norway can just as easily pay out the rebels here to, support Norway. So now Norway, in a weird sense, is being welcomed with open arms. But better yet, they are just going to go here and capture a lot of the territory. And they are getting dangerously close to this cluster of cities, which is right on the suburbs of the capital. Poland sees increased success into the Russian areas and into the countryside. Their goal is to link up over here, because of course if they do that, then Norway can just take this. So with a lot of their divisions evacuating from the south, seeing this Russian city is going to be able to be protected. They're going to hold out in the center and the north, and in which case all of their forces are going to be pushed into the north, capturing a little bit of coastline here. And of course, Norway now can move out from Estonia, capturing the areas around St. Petersburg and linking up with their Finnish divisions. And the rest of this is going to be divided up amongst them and the Polish. And like I said earlier, of course, this is not just the Polish, this is also like the Ukrainians and the Eastern Russians, blah, blah, blah. They're sending all of their divisions through the Farmers Union, who I am also convinced is sending their forces here. And eventually it is too much for Russia to handle. Basically, with a second coalition in the past year, they're going to be forced to subside over to the forces of Norway and basically the entirety of their breakaway states. And now we can check out a peace treaty between Russia, Norway, and Poland. Alright, and this is what we see our peace treaty looking like. And these lines are pretty detrimental for the Russian state, as now they are being forced all the way out here to the east. Poland is going to take these territories, and actually you might see that that's not that much, but of course reparations are going to be paid to the Polish by the Russians. And the Norwegian are going to take these territories, basically encompassing the entirety of Finland. And yeah, Norway has formed a formidable empire, but actually just to make this look a little bit more impressive for Norway, and also this is going to be making a lot more sense. They're going to establish a little puppet state over here, and that is just because these areas of Finland, they're going to want to rehabilitate the state of Finland, so they make a puppet state. And that might be a little bit hypocritical because of course they are occupying these territories of Finland, but then making this into a puppet state, so it's a little bit weird. But yeah, Norway's influence has been exerted basically everywhere around their borders. And yeah, I don't really know where to take it from here. Of course, if I go back to the original map here, you can see that there were a lot of weak countries around them, and they have basically taken out all of those weak countries, and then some. Of course, they've taken the northern sections of Germany, and then kind of like Poland, and then the western sections of Russia, as well as Iceland, and down here in the Caribbean, and they all in all have made a pretty formidable empire. So in a regular case, I would say that this is the end of the video, but of course, this is a little bit short in my opinion. The recording is only 20 minutes long. Okay, funny story, I just got back from my math tutor, so I'm not quite sure where we left off, but I think I was making the remarks of the advancements of the Norwegian Empire. And so far, the Norwegian Empire has been growing very rapidly. Of course, I think I showed this a couple seconds ago, but I can't really remember. It's just that you see their original form, and they've taken over all the weak countries, and it's kind of like, where do you want to go next? Well, going right back down here to the Caribbean, we can see that Norway does have their colonies down here, and they're just going to invade Central America, capturing the Panama Canal. Now, of course, this is frowned upon on most, international stages, but Norway is inevitably going to get their way, as they're going to take all of the areas around the Panama Canal, and I'm not sure, it doesn't follow the provinces, but I think that's going to be okay. But now Norway basically has full economic control of the entirety of the Americas. And I think with total economic control by the Norwegians, that's where we can end today's video. I hope you guys did enjoy today's scenario, and if you did, then please consider liking and subscribing. We have hit 1,000 subscribers, and I do have to come up with a brand new goal, which I will do probably by next video. And speaking of the upcoming future, soon it is going to be Thanksgiving break. And in Thanksgiving break, I'm going to pre-record a video to come out basically every other day or every 2 days. But there are going to be WICSO shorts filling in the gaps between, each long-form video. But yeah, with that note in mind, I'll probably also make a community post on it, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video.